Hello, welcome to Endor-N-Gauge Model Railway. Earlier this year when Bachmann announced they'd be making a Swallow-liveried Class 47, I was immediately tempted. Class 47s are one of my favourite diesel designs, and the Swallow livery is one of my favourite liveries for modern stock. But I didn't immediately pre-order one, because I didn't have any rolling stock I'd want to run with it. I do have a rake of Mark III coaches in Swallow livery, but they're the type for HSTs, rather than the loco-hauled type. The visual differences are minor, but once you know something's not right, it's hard not to notice it all the time. In this case, the lack of buffers on the coaches would be obvious, and it would annoy me. There were actually Swallow livery Mark II coaches still available, but at the hiked prices from the Graham Farish summer 2023 announcements, so I decided not to buy the Class 47. But then one day I was running my Swallow livery HST and really liked how it looked, and decided to get the Class 47 and Mark IIs after all. I have a nice book with lots of photos of Class 47s in the West Country over the decades of their regular service in the region, and have watched quite a few YouTube videos of them too. On the cross-country services in the 90s they often ran with as few as 5 coaches, so 5 or 6 would look like a realistic train length. The Graham Farish Mark IIs had been released quite a while ago, and despite their high prices, most retailers didn't have a full selection of carriage types and liveries available, so I bought from both Rails of Sheffield and the Model Centre. So, I'd have a rake of nice Mark IIF coaches in a few days, but would have to wait what turned out to be 6 months for the Class 47 to become available. I've been very impressed with the coaches, though I still think they're overpriced. It was obvious from product photos that they would look great. I was expecting that, but I was surprised at how well they couple together. I didn't realise I could be so impressed by Rapido couplers, but there's something oddly satisfying about pushing these coaches together. They clip together softly, silently, and perfectly. They do exactly what they should. The coaches also roll very nicely, and being Mark IIs there's more clearly visible underframe detail than on Mark IIIs, which I think makes them a little more interesting, while with the Mark IIFs they still have the same modern looking shape and window proportions of Mark IIIs. But they weren't actually all that I ordered. At the time I was shopping for the coaches, Rails was selling a Virgin livery Class 47 with 20% off the usual prices. That was too tempting to resist, especially as the rollout of the Virgin livery at the railway's privatisation took time. Plenty of trains ran with a Virgin livery Class 47 and a Swallow livery rake of coaches. So I had these nice new coaches and now a nice new locomotive to pull them while waiting for the Swallow livery Class 47. One of the early locomotives I bought when getting into N-Gauge was a new Graham Farish Class 57 in Freightliner livery, and not all that long ago I bought a pre-owned one in Great Western livery. Both have been superb runners with good pulling power, so I was expecting the Virgin Class 47 to be good too, and I was not disappointed. It too has run flawlessly from straight out of the box. Of course, I still ran it in as advised in the instructions, just in case that does actually make a difference. Also these days I can't bring myself not to buy sound-fitted versions of locos. It's great to have another diesel with that extra dimension of reality. But the temptations didn't end there. Once I'd decided to buy the Virgin Class 47, it made sense to get a couple of Virgin liveried Mark IIFs too, to add some colour and variety options to the rake of coaches. During the transition years, the rakes of coaches and locos were often a mix of liveries. Once on the layout, I found I liked the Virgin livery ones more than I thought I would. I knew I'd like them mixed in with Swallow ones, but they looked good on their own. I imagine you can guess what happened next. Since I would have 2 locomotives, and I had 1 and a bit rakes of coaches, it wouldn't be that much of a stretch to get enough Virgin coaches to complete a second rake. So about a week later I'd ordered enough Virgin Mark IIFs to complete another train. As a bonus extra I got a blue-grey coach too, which I can use with the Swallow livery rake. I don't think any blue-grey coaches ran alongside Virgin ones though. I would actually have bought a few more blue-greys, but only the brake coach was available for the Mark II Ds, Es or Fs. Potentially controversial statement inbound. I don't think the steam era style of coaches, such as Mark Is and Mark II As, Bs and Cs, look good with more modern liveries, including BR Blue-Grey. A few hours later I found this, and I don't think it looks too bad. Now clearly at some point I decided I wanted to have this, I had to go back and look through my order history to see when I got this, and it was after the others. I got it pre-owned, so it wasn't as expensive as the others, so maybe at the right price I do like Mark IIA coaches in BR blue-grey. But I definitely don't like them in newer liveries than blue-grey. There were and still are other liveries of Class 47 available that I like the look of, and British Rail used to put all kinds of liveries of Class 47 on the trains when locos were drafted in to cover for the usual ones being unavailable. But after all that expenditure, I don't want to splash out any more on Class 47s for a while, especially as I've got a Class 56 on pre-order, and there are Class 57s I'd like in certain liveries if they become available, and some specific liveries of 47 that aren't available at the moment. But it turned out I wasn't actually quite done. A pre-owned sound-fitted Class 8 in Swallow livery became available a bit later at a good price, so I bought that too, since I've now got quite a few Swallow livery coaches to shunt. This has a little story of its own. It was from Rails of Sheffield, advertised as being tested and in as new condition, but it wasn't. On arrival it had the glaring omission of one buffer, so it clearly hadn't been inspected at all thoroughly. On the plus side, it did run well. Rails didn't have any other pre-owned examples to replace it with, nor any suitable spare buffers, and I wasn't willing to pay the extra for a brand new one, so I found some spare buffers on eBay and Rails agreed to credit me with the cost of buying them. I haven't got round to trying to fit those yet. And eventually, the thing that started this all off in the first place, the Swallow-livery Class 47, was the last to arrive a couple of weeks ago. As I've come to expect, it ran perfectly straight out of the box for its running in. I don't think it's as good as the others though. With a rake of coaches it slows down noticeably on the curves of my railway, even on the larger radius, which the other ones don't do, so I'll need to see if something is stopping the bogies from swivelling as far as they should. Otherwise, it's excellent. Hopefully none of the other Class 47s available will end up in irresistible sales. Or I'll probably also end up buying log wagons for colas, mail carriages for rail express systems, or a rake of something to go with BR Blue. We'll see. That's all for now. Bye bye.